Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real today. Ain't nothing more powerful than a woman who chooses peace over pain, growth over grudges, and silence over screaming. You know why? Because that peace, that glow, that calm smile, it speaks louder than anything you could ever say. A man, listen to me. A man often walks away thinking he still has a hold on you. He may leave your life, but somewhere in the back of his mind, he thinks you're still emotionally stuck. He thinks your world's gonna stop turning because he's no longer in it. It's ego, baby. Straight ego. He expects you to stay in that pain, sit in that sadness, replaying memories, second-guessing yourself, wondering what you could have done different. He expects you to keep checking your phone, waiting on a hey text that ain't coming. He walks away and assumes he's still got some emotional real estate in your heart. And that right there, that's where the real story starts. Because here's the thing, a lot of men don't realize the power of a woman's heart. They don't understand how deep she loves, how much she gives, and how heavy it hits when she finally chooses herself. So when a man leaves, especially after hurting her, he tells himself she's not going anywhere. She might cry a little, sure, maybe even post some quotes, throw on some sad music, but deep down, he believes she'll always be there. That belief, that's his first mistake. You see, most men underestimate the healing power of time and silence. They forget that the same woman who once loved them like home can also learn how to build a new one on her own. A man will expect you to be emotionally frozen in time while he's out there doing his thing. He don't expect growth. He don't expect silence. He don't expect peace. And when he sees it, it shakes him. It makes him question the narrative he told himself about you. He thought he was the center of your world. He thought walking away would make you chase, that you'd be the one stuck, calling late at night, asking him to let him go. You cried, sure, but then you healed. And that healing didn't come with fireworks or drama. It came quietly. It came in those mornings where you woke up and didn't feel the need to text him anymore. In those nights you fell asleep without checking his socials. It came in the peace you chose, in the boundaries you built, in the love you started giving yourself. And let me tell you what happens next. He starts watching, maybe from the sidelines, maybe from a fake page, maybe through friends. And what he sees, it ain't what he expected. He expected tears, not that new confidence. He expected regret, not that radiant smile. He expected you to be emotionally wrecked, not emotionally reborn. That's when the shift happens. That's when he starts to realize he didn't just lose you. He lost the version of you who would have given him everything, had he just chosen right. But you see, you ain't stuck no more. You're not waiting. You're not hoping. You're not begging anybody to come back and fix what they broke. You realize that the closure you were looking for wasn't in his apology. It was in your peace. That moment when you decided to stop waiting for an explanation and started living again. That was the moment you got free. And that freedom, that's what he never expected. Because peace is powerful, especially when it comes from someone he thought would be broken. You ain't bitter, you ain't angry. You just done. And there's something about a woman who's truly done that hits a man different. It ain't loud. It ain't messy. It's just final. And he feels that. Whether he says it or not, whether he ever comes back or not, he feels it in his spirit because he knows he ain't got access no more. Not to your body, not to your energy, not to your heart. Let me tell you something about how a man thinks. When he walks away, he often assumes he's walking away with the upper hand. He thinks he's leaving you behind in pieces, while he steps into something better. In his mind, he thinks you're going to be sitting around, crying, checking your phone, waiting for some sign that he misses you. He convinces himself that you're not going to bounce back anytime soon, that you're too emotionally invested, that without him you'll be struggling. He expects to see you down, not rising. He expects you to be bitter, not blooming. So when the day comes, and oh, it always comes, when he lays eyes on you again and sees nothing but peace in your spirit, glow in your face, and a calm he can't interrupt anymore, that's when his ego takes the real hit. Because a man's ego is fragile when it comes to a woman he thought he broke. See, it's easy to think you've got power over someone when they're still hurting. But when that hurt turns into healing, and that healing turns into growth, and that growth shows up in your smile, your silence and your energy, that's when reality slaps him. You're not just okay, you're better. You're not just surviving, you're thriving. And what gets him the most isn't even that you're doing good. It's that you're doing good without him. Your glow isn't forced. It's real. It comes from the peace you chose after the storm. It comes from finally putting yourself first, walking in purpose, waking up without that weight on your chest. It comes from loving yourself in a way you never did when you were trying to hold him down. And when he sees that, when he realizes you found happiness that he's no longer part of, that's when it hits. Because now he has to ask himself a question his ego was never ready to face. Was I really the one holding her back? He sees you out with that fresh energy. You're not chasing, you're not crying, you're not even reacting. You're just existing in a space of calm he can't access anymore. And that eats him up inside. Because the ego, it feeds off attention. It feeds off control. But once you stop feeding it, once you remove yourself from that equation, it starts starving. That silence of yours, that peace, that's the loudest sound to a man who thought you'd always be available. He expected your world to shrink without him, but instead he sees it expanding. You're out here walking different, dressing different, talking different, not to prove a point, not for revenge, but because you're finally free. You finally realize that you don't need closure to glow. You don't need answers to feel peace. You don't need him to move forward. And the fact that you reached this place without bitterness, without throwing dirt on his move, without begging for anything back, that shakes him in a way he'll never admit. Because deep down, he knows he's no longer the reason for your smile. He's no longer the one you're praying for. And that ego of his, it can't take that loss. He thought he was irreplaceable. He thought you'd be stuck. But instead you got up, you leveled up, you tapped into your purpose, your power, your peace, and now you're glowing with the kind of light that's not looking back. And the most painful part for him, that glow, that peace, that power, it's all shining from a version of you that no longer needs him at all. Let me tell you something real today. Your peace is powerful. Matter of fact, your peace is louder than any text, louder than any argument, louder than anything you could ever post, say, or scream. When a man expects chaos and gets calm instead, that's when he really starts listening. That's when he really starts to feel the weight of what he lost. Because see, peace ain't quiet, it speaks volumes. It's just that only the right people can hear it. Now when you go silent, it's not just about words, it's about what your silence represents. A peaceful woman who doesn't argue, doesn't chase, doesn't beg. That woman is dangerous to a man who thought he had you wrapped up. Because what do most people expect when there's heartbreak? Tears, rage, calls, posts full of emotion. But when instead they're met with peace, that's when the whole game changes. That's when he starts to think, damn, she really done. That peace is different because it's not performance. It's not fake. It's not temporary. It's genuine and it's powerful. It's you choosing yourself. Peace says I ain't mad, I'm just done. Peace says I could have fought, but I chose to heal. And let me tell you, there's nothing more confusing, more unsettling to someone who hurt you than watching you glow in stillness. He's looking for signs that he still matters. He's checking to see if you're upset, if you're throwing shots, if you're bitter. But when you give him nothing, when you give him peace, that's when he realizes he no longer has space in your world. You didn't just walk away, you walked up. And now you're standing on higher ground. And don't get it twisted. Peace ain't weakness. Peace is discipline. Peace is strength. Peace is knowing you could destroy someone with the truth. But instead you choose to protect your own energy. Because you realize that you don't need revenge. Don't need to clap back. Don't need to prove anything. You don't even need closure. You just need to protect your peace. That's your new priority. And when that becomes your focus, everything else starts falling into place. That man, he don't know how to respond to that. He was prepared for everything except peace. He was ready for the back and forth, the emotional tug of war. But you didn't pick up the rope. You just walked away from the game entirely. And now he's stuck playing by himself. And the worst part, he knows that peace didn't come easy. You earned it. You cried for it. You fought yourself for it. And now that you got it, you're not about to let anybody come back in and disturb it. Not even him. You don't need to block him. You don't need to bash him. You don't even need to explain yourself. Your peace is the explanation. Your silence is the closure. Your calm is the response. Because peace is power. And once you tap into it, you realize just how loud it really is. You become a whole different woman when you stop reacting and start protecting. And once you find that version of you, the one who don't chase drama, don't entertain mess, don't explain her worth, you become unforgettable. Because the truth is, anybody can get loud, anybody can go off, but not everybody can stay calm, walk away, and build a better life in silence. That's rare, that's royalty, that's what leaves a lasting impact. Not the yelling, not the back and forth, but that moment when you stopped responding and just kept rising. Let me tell you something that don't get said enough. Your silence is a weapon, and I don't mean the kind of weapon that hurts people. I mean the kind that protects your peace, guards your heart, and makes people feel your absence louder than they ever felt your presence. See, when you're loud, when you're explaining yourself, when you're reacting, they can tune you out. But when you go quiet, when you stop responding, stop reaching, stop chasing, that silence screams. It makes a man look in the mirror and ask questions he was never ready to ask. That's when the regret starts to settle in. Because here's what people don't understand about regret. It doesn't always come the day after. Sometimes it shows up weeks later, months later, even years later, when the dust has settled and he realizes that your silence wasn't weakness. It was strength. The strength to not beg. The strength to not prove your worth. The strength to walk away from what wasn't valuing you and do it with your head high. That silence becomes louder than any message you could have ever sent. See, when you're silent, you shift the dynamic. You stop feeding his ego. You stop giving him the reaction he's so used to. You stop explaining your pain. And that's what shakes him, because a man might not hear your tears, but he will feel your absence. And once you stop talking, once you stop trying to fix it, once you stop showing up for someone who kept letting you down, that's when he realizes he had something real. But now it's too quiet to ignore, too peaceful to disturb. You see, he thought your silence meant you were done caring. But that ain't the case. Your silence meant you were done begging. It meant you were done lowering yourself to be understood by someone who never listened. It meant you were finally choosing you. And that silence turns into strength when you wake up and realize you feel lighter without the constant confusion. When you start focusing on your healing instead of its potential. When you start rebuilding your life, brick by brick, without ever looking back. He thought silence was surrender, but it was actually the beginning of your rise. He thought no response meant he won, but it actually meant you finally understood that peace don't come from getting closure. It comes from closing the door yourself. And when you did that, that's when the shift happened. You didn't need to slam the door. You just gently shut it, locked it, and threw away the key. And now while you're busy moving forward, glowing, growing, he's sitting in the echo of that silence. He'll start to remember the little things, the kindness, the consistency, the way you showed up when you didn't have to. The way you listened when he didn't deserve it. And suddenly the silence becomes loud. It becomes heavy. It becomes undeniable. Because now he's replaying all the chances he got and didn't take. All the moments he could have fought for you but didn't. And he realizes that the woman who used to fight for the relationship, who used to pour out her heart, is now quiet. She's done. And that's a regret he'll have to carry. And here's the thing. He might try to come back. He might text. He might call. He might suddenly realize what he had. But by then you're already too far into your healing. You've turned that silence into power, into focus, into boundaries. You're not the same woman who once needed answers. You're the woman who created peace, not by fixing someone else, but by fixing your own crown. And now that he sees that strength, he understands the value of what he lost. Let me tell you something right now. When a relationship ends, the first thing most people assume is that the one who walks away wins. That the one who seems unbothered, distant, or distracted got the better end of the deal. But that ain't always true. Because sometimes the biggest loss isn't in losing a person. It's in losing the version of that person who loved you with everything they had. That's where the real pain lives. And for a man who didn't realize what he had when he had it, that truth cuts deep later on. You didn't lose him. He lost a version of you. He'll never get back. See, what men don't always understand is that when a woman loves for real, she gives you something sacred. She gives you her heart, her time, her energy, her trust. She dreams with you, builds with you, supports you, even when she's tired. She sacrifices silently, hoping that love will be enough. And during all that, she's giving you a version of her that not everyone gets to see. That soft, forgiving, loyal, ride or die version. That's the side of her built for love, built for building, built for forever. And when a man fumbles that, when he breaks that trust, takes that love for granted, or chooses his pride over his peace, he doesn't just lose a woman, he loses that one-in-a-million version of her. Now the dangerous part for him is that he don't realize it right away. No, it usually hits later, when he's out there thinking he can find something better, when he thinks he'll meet someone new and feel that same comfort, that same connection. But the truth starts showing up when he starts comparing every new person to the way you used to understand him, to the way you used to show up, the way you used to love without limits. And little by little, he begins to feel the weight of what he lost. Not just you, but the version of you who believed in him when even he didn't believe in himself. Because here's the thing, once a woman heals, she changes, she becomes wiser, she becomes stronger, she sets boundaries, she moves differently, and that version of her, the one that still hoped, still tried, still believed, she doesn't exist anymore. She evolved, she grew through the pain, she became the woman she needed to be for herself, not for someone else. So even if he comes back, even if he apologizes, even if he swears he's changed, he's not coming back to the same version of you he left. And that's the regret he's got to carry. He might miss the way you used to laugh at his jokes, even when they weren't funny. He might miss how you used to stay up just to make sure he made it home. He might miss the small things, the random texts, the support, the loyalty. But what he really misses is the woman who once loved him without hesitation. And the most painful realization of all, that version of you doesn't live here anymore. You outgrew her. She served her purpose. She tried her best. And now she's gone. Now you're standing in a whole new space. A space where your love is still powerful, but it's no longer free. It's earned. It's respected. It's protected. And the sad thing is he never got to meet this version of you. The healed you. The empowered you. The woman who knows her worth and won't shrink herself just to keep a man. And the version of you he once had, the one who bent over backwards to make it work, she's a memory, one he'll replay over and over again in his mind, wishing he had done things different. But that's the thing about life. You only get certain versions of people once. And when you mishandle them, when you hurt them, when you make them feel like they were too much or not enough, they eventually stop showing up that way. And what's left is regret, silent, lingering, cold regret. Because he didn't just lose love. He lost a once-in-a-lifetime version of you, and that's something he'll never get back.